All right, guys, here we have a 2005 Club Car Precedent gas. This one here is a crank no start. Well, kind of start sometimes when it wants to. It does crank and it does run, but it runs on full choke only. And then if you give it a little bit less choke, it'll run really good for a second and then quit. And then it takes a long time to get it started again. So there's a couple of issues I think we have with this one. I know there's some trash in the carburetor and possibly a bad fuel pump or a broken fuel line. It's leaking somewhere, it's just drawing air or something. We'll find out for sure. I see one thing already just by looking under the seat here. The petcock isn't opened all the way, so not that it really matters all that much, but sometimes it does. So we just open it all the way, especially if there's trash in it. It'll cause it to not function as it should. So this one here, we will be doing quite a few things. This was picked up last year for storage and then parked until now. So this way we can isolate all the issues, get it cleaned up and back to its owner. First things first, we got to take the seat off. Ooh, this one's wet. It's full of water, I can feel it. All right, so what I'm gonna do, key in the ignition, service mode, neutral, crank it over, full throttle, choke in all the way. You can see how long it takes for it to actually fire up. Here it goes. Now if I let go of the choke, just a little bit, and then I let go of it all the way, you can see how it dies right out. So that tells me we have a blocked carburetor, or we're not getting good fuel flow, even though the fuel lines feel good. This fuel pump looks fairly new. I wonder if I put this in not too long ago. Well, nonetheless, we are going to pull the carburetor and clean it. It's the one downfall with this cart. One thing I wish they did when they built this cart was they swapped the gas tank and battery location. The gas tank should have been kept over here. Battery could have gone over here. And then they still could have engineered the gas tank to be the same size, bigger up here with a heat shield on it. That would have been sufficient to block it from the muffler. And keep the battery over here so that it would have been easier to get to carburetor. So what we're going to try, I don't normally do it this way, but I would like to try it once, see how it turns out. We are going to, don't lose that screw. Let's see how feasible this is for the average Joe here. We're just going to lift the gas tank right out, see if this gives us better access carburetor area. This way we're not fighting with stuff. Seems kind of stupid to have to take the gas tank out, but okay. Well, we got to change this fuel filter anyway because we're doing a carburetor service. And I do not, ooh, that gas is gross. There is water in it. Okay, let's see what else is. I think it's just held in with, I'll take that ground wire off. The vent tube isn't held in with anything. Oh, well that's easy enough. That just lifts right out. This is basically like a ground. No, not basically, it is a ground. It's the ground wire for the sending unit. If you were to get a sending unit with the gas gauge. Okay, so we lift the tank out. That has got to be the easiest fuel tank to remove that I have ever done on any golf cart ever. That is basically going to give us extreme easy access to the carburetor. So now we have some pretty generous space to access the carburetor. Now we don't have to fight with the gas tank. Let's get that carb out. The weather has finally started to break around here, so everybody's out and doing yard things with yard toys and pressure washing and mowing and all that fun stuff, which is actually kind of refreshing to hear. Let's get this. I should get my channel locks to do that. Oh, That did it. Pull that off. I'm going to actually spin that up. So that's something I'm going to highly recommend from this moment on. If you need to do any carburetor work on your club car Precedent, take the gas tank out. As long as it's not full, it shouldn't be that difficult. Because that's only got not very much gas in it, and it's still got some weight to it. I am going to remove this intake hose, though, completely, so I can get my wrench in here. Might be some crud in the threads on this. Got to remove the tamper cover on here. Those are a size T15 or T20. T15 works. Oh, and we got a 10 mil right here. I should just get my impact, or my electric ratchet. There we go. Okay, I want you to take that off if you have that. Some people take that off and don't even put it back. All right, so I'll take that off. We got to take the fuel line off too. You're definitely going to be flushing this fuel system out. This is stuck. There we go. Oh, that is so much better. Whoa. Hold your horses there, cowboy. All right, so we got the carb off. Gaskets look good. The other gasket's on this. That looks fine. That one looks good. You know, golf carts are starting to get to the point where you need special equipment to figure out what's going on with them, especially the electrics. All right, so I took the bowl off. You can see there's a bit of debris in there, and the gas is pretty varnished. You can see all the little bubbles too. That's moisture. Carts, engines, internal combustion engines do not run on moisture. They run on fuel. All right, let me get this carburetor cleaned. And well, sorry about that, guys. My battery died on the wireless mic, but I got the carburetor installed. I got the air hose installed. The only thing what I have left now is to reinstall the fuel tank, but I want to basically check the fuel tank and see how the gas is before we go forward. I know this fuel is really old, and it's probably no good. Drop the fuel tank back in. Which it is a pretty straightforward task. Make sure you have the, I know I'm in the way. Ow. Just got to make sure you have the ground wire. Reinstall that where it came from. This ground is only for the fuel sending unit, so it's not super critical that it's there unless you have a fuel sending unit. Reinstall our bracket, and also tank vent. Just send it back in here where it was. You don't have to go tight with these, just till they touch. And that's basically just a bracket to hold that in place. This is just a placeholder. Unless you have the fuel sending unit, which gets installed right here, that does nothing more than just keeps that wire in place. Okay. Not crazy about these squeeze clamps, but they do work. They do make a special pliers for these, so moving them and resetting them is not such a pain in the butt like this is. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to prime the fuel system so I can take a look at the condition of the fuel when it comes out. It's going to come out a bit red because this was a line I used to bleed out the air furnace, the oil furnace. There we go. Fuel pump is priming. Barely. Let's see what's going on here. See, I might just need a fuel pump. See, this battery is dirty. I can't get my alligator clips for my battery charger on here, so I'm gonna basically turn this down. Like so. I gotta see if this guy wants to do a full service on this cart, because it looks like it's gonna need it, but wasn't opted in for when storage was paid for. So what are we at? 12.05, so it is low. We're going to use the battery charger to assist us with our cranking here. Let's see if we can get a better view of this. These pumps are not designed to lift, but it should pump. All right, so what I'm doing now is I have this set up to pump directly out of the tank. We're going to drain this tank completely. Get it down to as much as we can get down. And then we are going to put some fresh fuel in it because the gas that's in here is shot. There's too much water in it. I don't feel comfortable letting it go with what's in here, so I would feel much better siphoning all this out of here and starting with some fresh fuel. It would make me feel that much better. I mean, I don't know if you can see that. That is very, very cloudy. There is a lot of moisture in that fuel. So we'll let this run until we get all the fuel out as much as we can, and then we'll wipe the bottom of the tank out with a microfiber cloth on the end of a piece of metal. And we'll put some fresh fuel in it. Right to the end. I bet you we can get the last bit out with the pump. Jack it up a little bit higher. Yep. That's pretty much it. I'm going to let it run just for a couple of more minutes here. Well, not minutes, but just for a couple more seconds. Because it's pretty much empty. Okay. So we got... That's empty. Now what I'm going to do is pull the crap fuel out of the fuel system here, the pump and the fuel line. I will be changing that filter again. Okay. Make sure this is all drained out and empty. So to make your own tank dipping, cleaning, wiping out rag, what I do is I take a steel rod, which I have all thread right here. I think this is 5/16. Doesn't matter. Wood will work too, but I found a piece of metal. Microfiber cloth, you just roll it up. Any direction, any length, whatever. It doesn't matter. Don't overthink it. And then what I'll do is I'll fold it in half, right? And then I just take a zip tie, like so. Whoop. And pull it real tight around the end of that metal or wooden stick. So now you got like a little puffball on the end of a stick here. And then I'll take it. You want to use something that is going to hold onto the rag because you don't want to lose it down inside your gas tank. And then all you do is wipe it and you basically mop the inside of your fuel tank. That's all there is to it. You can spin it if you want. You basically just want to get as much of that moisture as you possibly can. See, that thing is soaked. And then, you know, take it out. You're going to have to wring it out. Wring it into a fuel-safe container. Oil pan works too. Send it back down in the tank. Just keep mopping it out. Just be careful of your dip tube. You don't want to go shillelaghing that and breaking it off. But that's pretty much it. You want to try to get as much of the moisture as you possibly. You want to try to get all of the moisture, but if you can't get all of the moisture, you'll have to leave your tank open to the atmosphere, inside a garage preferably, overnight. Yep, that's soaked again. So we'll wring it out over our oil drain pan here. Now, if you get clever, you could also put it on something that will be more flexible, like say a really thick coat hanger. I wouldn't use like Romex or like solid core copper. That's just not stiff enough. You want to use like a steel wire that's really thick. Let's take a look down inside. A couple more spots I see that could use a little mopping. Just gonna spin that over there. These tanks are a little more difficult to get from compared to the skinny narrow ones that came in the older club cars and the Easy-Goes. This is where the flexible bit would come in handy. But I am into the corner, which is great, so I'll just give it a little spin. Get it over there. Get it up there. I can see the shadow of it in the tank, so I know it is working. Okay. Let's wring it out one more time. Oh yeah. This is our last wring out. Now you'll want to leave this dry outside somewhere. You don't want to leave the fumes building up inside your garage or shop. Leave that rag outside. Okay, so if all worked well, see if you can see inside here now. I don't know how well this is going to focus, but you'll just have to take my word for it. That tank is nice and clean in the bottom, which is exactly what we wanted. Now there's a little bit of debris down in there. I mean, you're not going to get every last morsel, but it's a heck of a lot cleaner than what it was because it was really dirty. This is one of those never spill. Yeah, look at that, and I just spilled it everywhere. Wipe up our mess here. Okay. All right, we're above the dip tube. That's all that matters. I will get more fresh gas. Let's see how we make out here. I might have to prime the system because I did suck all the fuel out of it. I think we might be putting a fuel pump in this thing. Yepper, I think we might be putting a fuel pump in this thing. The fuel probably degraded the diaphragm so much that we can't get any. We can't get enough of the suction pressure. Now let's see if that helps. Not really. Not really. See, it's always 3 steps forward and 10 back when it comes to this stuff. This is what happens when you leave your cart sit. You get these problems when you just leave it sit. They don't like to sit. They like to be used. They like to be used. If you're gonna leave it sit, and if you're able to, you know, I understand people have medical situations that prevents them from doing things that they know they should be doing, which I get it, I understand. But if you're able to, try not to let your cart sit with fuel in it. Run some Sta-Bil through it or something, and anything's better than nothing. Bet you we're gonna have to take the gas tank out. We're going to take the gas tank out anyway because that's just going to make it so much easier. After learning how that works so well. Isn't it awesome? Isn't that awesome? Okay, right back to where we started. I know my big head's in the way. Put that there. I do like the fact, though, that taking the gas tank out is that simple. Yes, the gas tank has an inverted gas cap area, so you can't really flip it upside down to empty it all the way because they have to keep that airspace. And I date all my stuff anymore. I didn't always do that, but I do now. Almost all of these screws are very coarse threads. And they all do the same thing. Almost. More or less, they all do the same thing. Boy, I hope you guys can see it. It's me getting in the way here. I don't even know what you can see. See, here's this fuel line looks really good. Looks like it's in really good shape. So take that lesson from me, folks. Just remove the fuel tank. It makes it that much easier. I didn't think that tank came out that easy, to be honest, because I've never had any reason or need to remove the tank. Now, we certainly learned something today now, didn't we? Remove the fuel tank. It's that much easier. Okay. Now, I'll put the tank back in. You don't have to hook that wire back up if you don't want to, but I always restore it back to the way I found it. I'm not putting the tank bracket back in until I get this damn cart running. That's just the way it is. We are going to see if it'll prime itself. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Oh, it helps. Turn the fuel tank on. Okay, we got to prime this one. Sometimes you got to give them a little blast of fuel to prime them, the new pumps. There we go. Okay. What the hell is going on here? All right, what I'm going to do, I am going to pull this line off the engine. Cut it back some in case there's any funkiness going on here with vacuums that we don't have. All right, guys, there we have it. It is running. Wipe the lens off there. It's running on its own, and you're never going to believe what the problem was. Well, you might believe it. I know some guys are going to pick up on this pretty quick. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, the problem was, it wasn't the fuel pump. The original fuel pump is reinstalled in the cart. So we know that's fine because the cart is running, okay? The problem was the oil. The engine oil was like water. So I had to change the oil and filter because the viscosity of the engine oil was so thin that it was getting up into like this section of motor and blocking this line. This line here is the pulse line that goes up to the fuel pump, which gives it that pulse. It's basically a crankcase vent. If that hose wasn't on there, it would blow a little bit of oil out and smoke and vent and all that stuff. But it's a pressure and suction kind of thing. It works out, the fuel pumps in these carts and most small engines work with a pulse, unless it's an electric pump. And it works off the pulse, the pressure and vacuum of the piston going up and down really fast inside that crankcase creates a pressure and vacuum situation, and they use that to make the pump work. It makes the diaphragms go back and forth, and it pulls fuel from the tank and pushes it out in another hole. Yeah, so there's a whole science thing behind the way that works. And because the oil was so liquid, the viscosity was so thin, because it was so old and sat and had so much moisture in it, that it was blocking this fuel line and causing the pump to not be able to pump because there was no pulse. And it was intermittent, so that's why we were getting a pump and not a pump, and then pump some, no pump. And then that's one of the problems with leaving your cart sit. So changing the oil and changing the filters solved it. It took a little bit of running with the new oil in it to kind of get everything cleared out and make everything run smooth again, because the new oil's viscosity is a little bit thicker than the water that was basically in this engine. So it seems to be good now. It starts right up as soon as you hit the pedal. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Every cart you set on, that's what it's supposed to do. Step on the pedal and it immediately starts. So that was basically a crank and start in instant, where this is cranking. See, that's even running. So anyway, that was the problem. I was chasing this around for a little while trying to figure out what the hell is wrong. I even trimmed back some of the ends on this suction line here, this pulsar line, because I thought maybe there was a little bit of a vacuum leak. You know, a little bit of a leak is going to not let this pump work properly. So that wasn't it. So like I said, draining the oil out. New filter and oil will fix it. I was planning on changing the oil anyway, so it's not like I wasn't planning to do that. But I didn't think that would have that big of an impact, and it does. So I've seen that happen maybe once or twice in the entire time I've been doing this, so it wasn't something that I immediately thought of, and that's why I didn't go to that right away to figure out what the hell the problem was. But that's what it was. So what I got to do now is just talk to the customer and see what else they want me to do with this cart while I have it here in the shop. But as far as that goes, guys, that's going to be it for this one. That was an interesting one. I shut the camera off because I had to get it out of my way, because it was a lot of me sitting here and thinking, trying to figure out what the hell else could be wrong, and trying a couple of different things. But at least we didn't have to put a fuel pump in it, so that's good. I took my pump out and I put his fuel pump back in, so that's back to normal. New filters, new fuel filter, new oil filter, and oil, so that's good there. But I'll double check with him, see what he wants to do before I do anything else on this cart. So, all right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe to my channel if you already haven't, check the video's description for links to products I use every single day to make these videos for you, and be sure to check out my website and all the social media pages down below, and until next time, we will see you in the next video.